coming up tonight? The Seaside sees St. Thomas. The pool deck becomes a bubble bath. And we learn about the production shows. It's all coming up, so let's set sail. Welcome to day 4 of the cruise view from on board the MSC Seaside. Today was Tuesday, November 27th, 2018, and it was another port day, the second port day of the sailing, with a visit to Charlotte Amalie St. Thomas. This was a long port day, 12 hours long, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I think it's the longest non-overnight port stay that I've had on a cruise up to this point. And we were not the only one in port, but we were the first one in and the almost last one out today. We started our arrival at about 6 a.m. this morning. And we're alongside by 6:30 with our final ties in place by 6:50 a.m. for that 7 o'clock scheduled arrival this morning. The Celebrity Equinox arrived at 8 a.m. then. She was the next ship to arrive, but she was located over at the other pier on the other side of the bay, along with the Norwegian Star that arrived just behind her. And at pretty much the exact same time as the Norwegian Star, the Norwegian Bliss showed up to pull in right behind us over on our side. Then later in the morning, the Carnival Breeze came in for an 11:30 arrival, taking our total ships for the day to 5 docked in St. Thomas. And that is a lot of ships, a lot of people. Did not spend too much time off the ship to tell if it was extra crowded or not. In the actual pier area, it was a little bit chaotic with 3 ships there, but not too much more than it would be with a single ship. And then this evening, just like they arrived, the Celebrity Equinox and the Norwegian Star both left together at 5 p.m. Followed an hour later by the Norwegian Bliss right behind us pulling out. And then we were set to go next with an all aboard at 6:30. And we started our departure at 7 p.m. then, right on time, leaving the Carnival Breeze behind. It took us about 30 minutes to fully depart the pier area, and then it was about 7:45 that we finally were out into the ocean. The Carnival Breeze was scheduled to depart at 7 p.m. as well, right at the same time as us, but with us pulling past her, she likely could not do anything until we're out of the way. But even as we sailed off, I did not see them beginning to untie her at all, so I'm not sure what time exactly she might have ultimately left St. Thomas. But our ship spotting did not end there. Tonight we had a few more. At 12:30 a.m. we passed the Norwegian Bliss. She was off on our starboard side and we pulled right up behind her and then passed right by her. So not sure where she's headed tomorrow, but clearly it's a slower pace needed than what we're taking to get to St. Martin. And at pretty much the exact same time, when I looked out on the other side of the ship, I spotted an Oasis class off in the distance. At 1 a.m., she finally came much clearer into view as the Symphony of the Seas passed us going the opposite direction, very close to the ship, giving us a full view of her. And at almost the exact same moment, the Norwegian Bliss finally fell behind us, and not exactly sure why, but she made a turn to actually cross behind us, and it appeared that she might have even turned completely around. I'm not sure what was going on there, but she certainly made some kind of odd maneuver once we were past her. Then at 1:30 this morning, there was one more ship that I spotted off on the horizon, but unfortunately she was far too small on the horizon to actually tell what ship it was, but it was clearly some kind of cruise ship, and it is no longer there, so we never got close enough to tell what it was. So it was a port day. Our weather today for that, we had a sunrise at 6:34 a.m. right in the middle of our arrival this morning. And a sunset at 5:42 p.m. right around when the ships were starting to depart. Our high for today was listed as 94 degrees, a very hot 94 degrees all the way up and down the pier today. Every ship had water and towels out to help guests. It was incredibly hot out there in the sun, but we did have some partly cloudy skies, so when those clouds would get in the way of the sun, it would cool off so much that it really was like two completely different days depending on whether the sun was shining or a cloud got in the way. It was a huge temperature difference, so it was definitely the sun that was making it feel as hot as it was out there. And at one point we had a passing shower that came through the port area. We were off on an excursion, got a little bit of a drizzle just when we were leaving the excursion, so it was perfectly timed for that. Didn't really affect anything. When we got back to the port, everything was kind of flooded out. There were huge puddles everywhere, and those remain even tonight. There's a lot of areas of the ship that seems to not be even because there are a lot of very large puddles all over the top deck as well as down on deck 8 where water has gathered. Luckily, that did not get in the way of any of our activities, and we had only about 3 knots of wind, so it was a very calm day in port. So overall, it was an absolutely beautiful day with some great skies. Seas were pretty calm out there for any excursions, so there really wasn't anything wrong with the weather today. It was an absolutely perfect port day for everybody. But for my activities for today, started out, of course, with that 7 a.m. arrival, and then at 9:50, I had an excursion booked through MSC. It was a beach break in St. John. Our meeting time was 9:50 a.m. at the Manhattan Theater. That is not the arrival time. We arrived at 7 a.m. So the big rush of all the excursions trying to get off the ship had passed. The rush of people getting off had passed. It really was kind of calmed down at that point. But it was an excursion through MSC. And for theirs, when we arrived into the theater, they had up on the screen some directions of which excursion should be going over to which side of the theater to help separate things and get everything sorted away. They then got us our stickers and we headed out to meet our boat that took us over to St. John. And along the way, of course, we got some great sights of the 3 cruise ships, or 2 cruise ships at the time, that were docked on our side, as well as some of the damage that is remaining from the hurricane last year. There's a lot of damage still around St. Thomas as well as St. John, a lot of buildings that are missing their roofs, and there's even a Marriott hotel that I'll have to look up at some point to see, but it seems like it likely got damaged from the hotel and is now completely abandoned right near the port area. When you arrive and depart on the cruise ship, you see it, and if you're on an excursion, you'll see it as well because it is right next to the port. Once we got to St. John, we then got on a safari-like jeep that took us up through the mountains and over to Trunk Bay, where it was supposed to be an hour and a half. We ended up having about 2 hours of beach time on our own to just relax, enjoy those beautiful Caribbean waters, and of course all that sun that we had today. So that was about 2 hours, and just when we were heading back to the vehicles is when the sprinkle started, and it just came down quickly. There's actually a little bit of thunder right when it started as well, but we were headed back to the Jeeps. It never got too heavy over on the St. John side, not like it sounds like it was over on St. Thomas, but we were on the Jeep, so it really didn't do anything. And by the time the Jeep got back to our boat and we got off to go take a ride back to St. Thomas, the rain was over and it was completely dry out again. So the rain really did not affect us at all today. It affected a few other people for that moment that it came down, but for us at least it was a perfect day for that excursion. Then once we got back, we took in the ship a little bit before heading off to dinner. Today was the Italian night and a semi-formal night in the main dining room. It was also white night on the cruise ship, a very unusual combination. Not sure who coordinated that one, because white and Italian typically do not go together, but tonight that is what the theme was on the ship. And for my items, for a starter, I got the arancini Sicilian style, which was a rice ball with peas and mozzarella inside in a bowl with some marinara sauce, and that was absolutely delicious. It's a great starter, definitely the right choice to make today. And then for my entree, I got a lasagna bolognese. It's often hard to go wrong with lasagna, but they definitely got that balance just right. Sometimes it's a little too heavy on the meat or the sauce. They definitely balanced it right and made a perfect lasagna tonight. And then for dessert, I got the Lemon Delight, which was a cake with some lemon in it, as well as like a lemon frosting over top of it. That one was a little bit too rich for my taste, but it was delicious. It tasted a lot like the lemon Girl Scout cookies, actually, as well as a tiramisu that was an absolutely perfect tiramisu. It was actually slightly different tasting than the ones that I've seen in the buffet so far in this sailing. It tasted much better than those. Those have been a little bit dry, where this was just the perfect amount of moisture, perfect flavor. It was just perfect tiramisu. A lot of times you can, just like a lasagna, get those balances off a little bit and really kind of throw it off, but they managed to hit it all just right again with that one. Then following dinner, 7 p.m. was then our departure. Went out, watched us leave that long journey back down the pier, past the Carnival Breeze and out to sea, and then headed over to the Manhattan Theater for our production show tonight, The Wizard. And every night this production cast seems to keep wowing and amazing. They seem to manage to top themselves. They're definitely not, and this isn't just them, this is the ship as a whole, it is not an over-the-top impressive ship. There's not a lot of high-tech stuff. There's not a lot of that wow to it. But there are a lot of incredible cast members that really put a lot of energy and effort into everything they do and have a ton of talent. And that is where these production shows shine. They really are not the high-quality, well-written shows that you get from Royal Caribbean, but the talent of these casts are absolutely incredible, and that's really what makes these shows stand out. Tonight, there is a variety of different things, just like we've seen with the others. Since there are no guest entertainers, they basically have to make up for every type of guest entertainer that could come on board a ship. So tonight had a little bit of a mystery and magic theme to it. So it included aerialists this time, as well as roller skating stunts. It had some magic tricks. It even had a few stunts with people climbing on top of each other's shoulders. So it was a real variety of different things and a lot of different talents beyond just the traditional singing and dancing that you expect from a show. It was a whole cornucopia of different things, and that is what these production shows have been to this point. It's just been some incredibly talented people, really almost like variety shows, showing off what they can do just to entertain you. And then after that was over, I headed over to the Havana Lounge, where they had a game of Name That Party Tune. I was expecting it to be a little more of a traditional Name That Tune game. Of course, we saw the over-the-top production on Anthem. It was a little more like a trivia game where everybody divided into teams, had a sheet, and they played the different songs and you answer them and then switch sheets. So it was more of a trivia than you'd think the Name That Tune game is. But it was still an enjoyable one, and it got a pretty big crowd for what it was. So that was 9 o'clock, went until about 9:30. Then at 10 o'clock, they had in the atrium the Let's Get the White Party Started. As I mentioned, tonight is White Night, and that was the theme throughout the whole night. Even in Name That Tune, it was focused around that. When they do a theme on this ship, the entire entertainment cast is involved in it, and every activity they do that night is in some way related, or at least mentioning and hinting at the theme for the night, whether that was the Gatsby one or, in this case, the White Party. They stay fully in that theme for the entire night, which is nice to see because we typically see these parties and that's kind of all it's contained to. So it really does take over the entire night, and it makes a much bigger deal and kind of gets people a little more involved in that theme than we see with just a single party on its own. So this Let's Get the White Party Started was similar to all those moments that we've seen the past couple days. It featured the entertainment team in the atrium doing a little bit of a dance to some party songs to try to get everybody in the mood. Because then at 10:30 up on the Miami Beach pool deck was the official White Party. And this was an absolutely incredible over-the-top party. I've seen, I think, one party, probably the Independence of the Seas, that had a much larger crowd. But I don't think I've ever seen a party where the crowd was so involved and so excited for the event. And this one certainly had a lot to be excited for. It was different than some of the other parties we've seen. It wasn't over the top, scripted. It was a lot of just free-form fun and interactions. It had the activities team as well as the aqua park team, and it also had some of the cast members involved in there to help get people in the mood. Took over the entire top pool deck. They put up some drapes, try to give it a little extra styling, use the big video screen to show people in the audience and interact with people through that way. And they had a whole bunch of tables lined up along both sides of the pool deck, and it pretty much filled the entire pool deck. The area in front of the screen as well as both sides of the pool were completely filled for the event. And through the event they played all different kinds of songs. White isn't really a theme of music, but for this event, they went around the world. They went to all different countries to pull a song and get everybody from that nationality to feel like they were part of the bigger picture of the Seaside. And that really did bring everybody involved. And to top it off at the end, they then had 2 bubble machines out there to basically make it snow up on the pool deck in the middle of the Caribbean and really get everybody excited to end it all. In that event, the official party portion of it was about 45 minutes, but the party as a whole, with the activities staff leading it and continuing it, lasted about 2 hours tonight. So that went from 10:30 until 11:30, and then officially being cut off at 12:30. The nightclub tonight was extended as a result of that. So there are actually more people around tonight, even at 3 a.m., because for once the ship didn't go to sleep at 11:30. Even during the production show, the cruise director made a comment about the fact that everything ends at 11:30. So the ship does normally go to bed early, but tonight people are still around. We have 4 hours now until our next port of call arrival, but that's not stopping people from staying awake and enjoying all the festivities tonight. So then, moving on to our venue tour, today we are going to be looking at that location of the White Party with a check on the pool deck. The MSC Seaside is known as the ship that follows the sun, and its pool deck is an expansive space to go along with that. Located at the aft end of Deck 16, the Miami Beach Sun Deck is a large area that extends beyond each side of the ship. Featuring the main Miami Beach pool, this is a popular spot for guests to spend sea days, and combined with the video screen is the party spot during the day. At the aft of the deck, guests can cross the Bridge of Sighs, offering a unique experience as you cross the glass bridge high above the South Beach pool area below. While looking forward, you can watch the wake reflected on the massive black glass wall of the panoramic elevators. This pair of elevators offers expansive aft sea views as guests travel between the South Beach pool on Deck 7 and the Miami Beach pool on Deck 16, and more importantly, offers easy access to the Marketplace buffet right on Deck 8. Deck 18 midship offers a second pool area, the Jungle Pool Lounge. This themed pool area is smaller and quieter, featuring a large pool in the middle and ample lounge seating around the sides under the roof. The pool itself features a magrodome that can be closed during inclement weather, ensuring that even when the seaside can't follow the sun, the fun doesn't have to stop. So the pool deck on the seaside is one of the big features that a lot of people see, because it does extend very far over those sides. It stands out when you're looking at the ship from almost any angle, and it really is a big part of the ship compared to some others where it's just a natural part of the top deck. This one, the top deck really is made for the pool deck specifically, rather than the pool deck being on the top deck. So then for dining today, we are going to take a look at a specialty venue, the Ocean Cay restaurant.
Good morning, my name is Govi. Welcome to the Ocean Cay. This is our floating seafood restaurant where we have a selection of fresh seafood like crab selection, fresh oyster, and Mediterranean sea bass. And we have a very large selection of wine pairing that's make you an amazing lunch dinner on MSC Seaside.
So there are a couple of those special dining restaurants on board the ship. That is just one of them. We'll be taking a look at a couple of the other ones as well in the coming days. And for our interview tonight, I got to sit down with a member of the production cast to find out how those production shows are handled, all those rehearsals, everything that goes on to make a performance every single night possible. So today I am joined by Lauren, who is a dancer in the cast on board. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Could you give me a little bit of a background overview on yourself?
So for my background, I've danced for 23 years now. So I danced from the age of 3. I started with your basic ballet, jazz, tap and modern. And then I went into Latin and ballroom. So my background that I come from is actually Latin and ballroom. And I've done that since I was about 4. This is my second cruise. So I previously worked on a different cruise before, different company. And at the moment I am a production dancer within this company now. Before I was speciality, ballroom and Latin, as well as production dancer. So it's amazing to do different roles and try different styles, as well as like maybe, for example for me, Latin and ballroom, but then try other styles as well is amazing as well. I also come from a family of dancers, so both my grandfathers dance, my mother dance, and my brother is a dancer as well.
So what led you to want to join a ship and be at sea?
Do you know what? For a long time, I've always wanted to work on a ship. I said to my mom, like, my dream is to try it. Before I worked on land within like a hotel resort. Mm-hmm. But then I said, I think it would be amazing to be able to travel the world to see different places, and working on a ship is one of the ways to do that. So that was my reason behind, and I got my first ship last year and it was just amazing, and then it's just led on from there.
Other ships often have 1 or 2 main shows, but MSC is a completely different concept. You've got a different show every single night that you work on. That's right. Could you give a bit of an overview on those concepts?
Yes, so we have 2 or 3 shows per night. Normally on embarkation day we have 2 shows. Every other night is 3. And every night is different. So yeah, this was a first for me, because my last ship was not as, the schedule was not as busy as that. But the shows are fantastic. There's so many different concepts and different styles of shows, so it gives especially the guests a variety. So many different dance styles, there's so many artists in the show, so you see so many different skills. It's not just singing, it's not just dancing, not just acting, which for me is an amazing thing. I've never worked in a cast so big before. And for our shows, we usually have obviously our 3 shows a night. So we have one at usually 6:45, one at 8 o'clock, and one at 9:15.
The cast contracts on board with so many different shows, how do those work out?
So obviously this ship's been running for now a year. Mm-hmm. There was one cast that obviously started and began with the ship, and then we came here in June, and both myself and one other dancer, we were the first ones to take over from 2 girls. So a lot of the contracts, they do vary. They're not always the same. So some people have different end dates, different start dates. So there's a big cast changeover. And at the moment, obviously, a few of us have only got a few more weeks left, so I'm into my 5th month, and I have just less than 2 months left.
With so many different shows, how do you master all of them and keep on with all of them?
Ooh, good question. So the rehearsal period is quite intense. For my rehearsal period, I had 1 week, which is the shortest amount of time I've ever had to learn so many shows. But yeah, we came on board. We had 1 week. We shadowed the dancers that we were taking over. We worked with the dance captain that was on board. And yeah, we had 1 week to go straight into the shows, and then we continued with the rehearsals because then more people came for the cast changeover. So yeah, it was very interesting, very intense. And again, like I say, we've had a lot of cast changeovers since then. So we've perfected them quite a lot because we've had a lot of rehearsals.
On a ship, there are often rough seas. Your shows have a lot of different elements like aerialists, a lot of advanced features.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the rough seas?
Do you know what, I have to say, I don't really feel it on this ship because I think with it being so big, my last ship was a lot smaller, so I felt it, and we were in the East China Seas, so it's very different. Yeah. But in this one, sometimes you feel it, but not very often, I have to say. It's not too bad. Obviously, if there's been any times where it has been, sometimes we can adapt the show. So for example, some artists, for example the contortionists, very hard. So when I watch them, sometimes I think, oh my gosh, I don't know how they're in their positions and keeping that balance when it is sometimes a little bit rocky. But yeah, we can always adapt the shows if the weather persists that. So.
Then you're part of the production cast, but what other duties do you have on board? Is there anything else that you do?
So apart from the shows, some of our artists perform extra duties such as mini shows, which are performed in the atrium. So they're usually performed after the main shows in an evening. As well as that, for example, me, I have done embarkation duties. So when the guests are coming on board, we welcome them on board. So we don't have too many extra duties because we have a lot of shows. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be involved in other duties because then you get more interaction with the guests, which I love. I love to be able to speak to the guests, see what they think of the shows, and just to learn where people are from, see where, with their families, or some people are just traveling alone. It's just nice to speak to different people. So yeah.
Within the production cast, are there different roles or any kind of progression that you can go towards?
There is, yes. For example, as a dancer, you could work your way up to be a lead dancer, and then also maybe on to be a dance captain or production manager. For example, my current dance captain, he has the two roles. He's a dance captain and a production manager. So he has a lot of responsibility, and you can work your way up that way, and then from then you could maybe go on to be assistant choreographer for our main choreographer within the agency we work for. So for example, we work for an agency called Ladybug, who provide to MSC for the shows.
Now, you said that your contract is coming up in a couple weeks. What are your plans afterwards?
Yes, so at the moment I'm looking for maybe other companies to try different ships, different itineraries. For example, I've done Asia, now I've done Caribbean. Now I'd love to do something completely different again. Also, my partner, he works on ships as well, so it'd be lovely to say next year maybe we could get a contract together. But also I'm looking at other things, maybe to specialise more in my Latin and ballroom for next year, to maybe do a tour within that style. So that's the plan for next year, just applying for the new auditions that are coming up.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the viewers?
I would like to say that if you haven't cruised before, I think it's a fantastic way to travel. I'd love to try it one day as a guest to see what it's like on the other side of things. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody because it's a fantastic way to travel. You have so much on board, especially on this ship because it's so big. I feel very lucky to have worked on a ship this big. It's amazing. I still get lost now, and I've been on 5 months. So you would never be bored. There's always something to do and always something to see, and you get to meet some amazing people from so many different countries, so many different nationalities around the world. And where else do you get the chance to do that? So I would definitely recommend it to other people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I want to thank them for taking the time to talk to me. So that about does it for today. It was a busy day with a port of call and a lot of activities tonight. And tomorrow we have another port of call, St. Martin. It is another 7 a.m. arrival and an early departure at 2 o'clock. And looking ahead at the daily program, there are a lot of activities going on tomorrow night, and it's just going to keep picking up from there. We are 2 days away now, as is listed On the daily planner itself, 2 days until MSC Seaside turns 1, so I'm sure they'll have some stuff around there. I've heard they've been requested by corporate to put some things together, so hopefully we'll see some things on the ship as well, even if it's just a cake, something to commemorate the fact that she is officially 1 year old during this sailing. So that does it for today. Once again, I'm Picone. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the links.